And I got 7:30. All right, welcome everybody to the May 20th, 2025 edition of the Rockland Zoning Board of Appeals. All members are participating remotely. That would be Robert Baker Sr., that would be myself, Rob Rosa, that would be Robert Baker Jr., that would be Greg Tansey, and that would be Stephen Galley. We are definitely live streaming. We are definitely recording. And with that, I would entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
I got a second from Gregor. Roll call, Mr. Baker Senior.
Yes.
Myself is a yes, Mr. Baker Jr.,
Yes.
Mr. Tansey,
Yes.
and Mr. Galley.
Yes.
Okay, hearing's open. Let me read the public announcement here. Open meeting. Well, actually, typically right now we'd be opening, we'd be going in, but we got 7:30 approval of the May 6th, 2025 meeting minutes. I read them. I don't see a problem. Everybody else read them? Everybody's good?
Yep.
Motion to approve the minutes of May.
There's one. Do I get a second?
Second it.
Second.
Oh, we got multiple seconds. I'm going to do Baker. So Mr. Baker Senior with a Mr. Baker Jr. as a second. Roll call, Mr. Baker Senior.
Yes.
Myself is a yes, Mr. Baker Jr.,
Yes.
Mr. Tansey,
Yes.
and Mr. Galley.
Yes.
Done. All right. So now we're going to go to the first hearing. 7:30 p.m. notice is hereby given in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 11 and 15, that a virtual remote public hearing will be held by the Rockland Zoning Board of Appeals on Tuesday, May 20th, 2025 at 7:30 p.m. on the petition submitted by Daniel P. and Jessica M. Kimball, 83 Concord Street, Rockland, Mass, care of Ed Kimball, 83 Magnolia Street, Rockland, Mass, for a dimensional variance pursuant to zoning bylaws 415-22 building and lot regulations, 415-27 lot width, 415-28 frontage requirements, 415-34 side yard requirements for pre-existing lots, 415-35 off-street parking requirements, and 415-89.1 zoning variances to allow the applicant to convert an existing single-family dwelling containing 1,969 square feet into a two-family dwelling by adding a single-story addition of 1,148 square feet on a corner lot containing 18,347 square feet, and are seeking a dimensional variance of 2 feet for the right side setback. The premises is known as 83 Concord Street, Rockland, Mass, and is in the R4 Residence Zoning District. 415-11 of the zoning bylaw. Assessors reference lot 27, map 52 on the Rockland Assessors map. The owner is Daniel P. and Jessica M. Kimball, 83 Concord Street, Rockland, Massachusetts. All right. With that, I am going to turn this meeting over to my vice chair, Greg Tansey. I do have to recuse myself from this as the company that I work for did the plot plan. So I'm going to shut myself out of this meeting, and Mr. Tansey, you are going to take it over from here. You good with that?
I am.
All right, Allison, I think you had something prepared before Mr. Tansey takes over.
Yeah, I just wanted to quickly go over this. I'm kind of feel like we're all kind of swimming without life preservers right now. We're short-staffed significantly, but I did want to point a couple things out before you start asking any questions. Is that because Rob Chair Rosa has to recuse himself from this process, it has to be a unanimous vote. I just want to make sure that one, that was clear. And two, the applicant is seeking several variances for dimensional relief. It doesn't appear that this is an odd-shaped lot or anything like that, but I think a two-family is allowed in an R4 with the assumption that you have the minimum lot size requirement required per unit. And I just want to make sure that I hadn't fit all that into the legal ad because it would have been, ridiculous. That having been said, I wanted to make sure that the ZBA members were a little bit more familiar with what it was that they were seeking relief for that wasn't just legal mumbo jumbo. And so I'm going to be quiet now and let you guys move forward.
Thank you, Allison. I appreciate that. And with that, I'm going to step out of the room. So here we go. And Greg, call me when you're done.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay, well, good evening, everyone. Um, Mr. Kimball, I believe you are representing the applicant, and at this point, I would let you explain what you are trying to accomplish. Um, I was reading through the applications, and there was several um, references between an in-law and a two-family. Could you just explain or clarify for the board what exactly you're trying to accomplish here? What type of a addition unit are you seeking to get permitted here?
Okay, certainly. And thank you, members of the board, for having us tonight. What we are doing, speaking on behalf of my niece and my nephew who own the home, and the home is on the corner of Concord Street and John Dunn Drive, Memorial Drive. So based on the fact that it's a corner lot, it already has short frontage. And because of the short frontage, based on our existing zoning bylaws, they would gain 2 feet because the frontage is short. I believe the frontage comes out to approximately 90 feet overall right now. And because we have a 110, they gain 1 foot per 10-foot shortage because it's a corner lot. Thereby, that would give them 2 feet closer. Side setbacks are 15 feet. And when the addition was drawn in order to maximize it, to make it useful for aging in place, they needed to go wider so they could accommodate the layout and keep it on a single floor. And that's why we're going for the 2-foot variance on the right-hand side. And I'll mention that that property that abuts the 2-foot is their parents' resident. Dan's parents live there. And they've lived there for, God, it's going to be back since the early 90s. So they've a longtime Rockland residents, as well as both applicants were born and raised in Rockland. Okay. So the idea is, where it's an R4, is to go through and convert it to a 2-family based on the fact that later on, if they need to go through an age in place, or in the event they need to refinance like most people do in the course of home ownership, that the property is going to be valued more than if it was subject to having an ADU. And even though the new law changed with the ADU being 900 square feet by law, it just wasn't enough to accommodate the layout they were looking to do to give the family member that they intend to move in there right now the independence and keep their independence. So that was the basis of it. And the fact that many other properties on the street already are either multifamily with less square footage of lot size and the area is conducive to it. The thought process was to go through and go for a variance so that they could get a legal 2-family to give them the financial stability later in the future if they needed to refinance or do something for their family when rates come down and things like that. And in the event, I mean, right now, the current use is to go through and move in a family member so that they can age in place, but it may change over time, but they may need to take the piece over and age in place themselves. They want to have the ability to do that. And they also want to have the ability, in the event they do that, to have the option of renting it out legally so they can offset future tax increases, any overrides, things like that that may pop up in town, and maintain residents of the town as opposed to having to move out. So the basis behind it is a lot of it's strongly financial, but at the same time, the lot, because it slopes off, doesn't lend itself to trying to come in off of John Dunn Drive. Even though, and traffic wise, I don't think it'd be a wise decision trying to get into the back of the lot if they were trying to do that. So the idea was, that's why we pushed it over to the right side, more closer to their parents' property. And like I said before, they're just trying to go through and maintain the fact that they have the ability to if you will, stay in the home long-term. I mean, currently, one of the owners is the AD, director for the high school. He's a town employee. He's grown up here. He has strong family ties here, and he wants to remain here. So we're trying to make it so that it's feasible for them to stay in Rockland. And as you know, housing's, expensive no matter what town you go in. So the idea of doing a single story as opposed to a two-story was to go through and allow that person to have flexibility and be able to age in place with dignity. So that's a big part of it. We're all getting older, including myself. And if someday, it'd be nice if we could have a place where you had a handicap shower, you had wider doorways, you had accessible things without having to get online. When I say online, get into line for, public housing in Rockland, which is right behind it, one street over. So that's the biggest premise of it right now. So we're hoping that the board sees it that way. It's an 18,000 square foot lot. And if you were to have, I mean, I know the minimum was basically 3/4 of an acre, but if you were to divide 3/4 of an acre by 4 units, it'd be roughly 8,000 square feet per unit. And they have 18,000 square feet. So if you use that, that logic, they would have, more than enough to accommodate 2 units as opposed to if you try to put 4 on a 3/4 acre lot. And they want to raise their family here and they want to have the ability to stay here. So that's the big premise behind it. Because right now, there's nothing proven in the financial sector to go through with an ADU to go through and have it maintain the value that they may need if they want to refinance. So, and they're going to live here. They are living here now. And the intent is to bring a family member in, but as you know, family members age and, unfortunately, we all lose family members in time. So they want that. They want the ability so that if that happens, they can then pay for the added burden of increased taxes because the value is going to go up. It's going to be assessed for more, et cetera, et cetera. So, and we're hoping that the board looks at the area and understands that and hopefully, is gracious enough to grant them, the ability to do that. Any questions?
Mr. Galley, do you have any questions?
No, not at this time. I'm just looking at the layout, but I'm just, well, okay, I do have a question. I don't know if it was going to make any difference, but does it need 2 bathrooms to accommodate the need?
Well, actually, the idea behind the 2 bathrooms was there's also a much older person right now a grandparent who may end up in there with a parent in the future. So the idea was so that they could have dignity, their separate facility as well.
Okay. All right. I don't have another question at this time.
And I might add that they have a shared entry coming in off the front and they're going to have a shared deck off the back.
Yeah.
Mr. Baker, are you all set, Mr. Galley?
Yeah, thank you. I had no other question at this time.
Okay.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Baker Senior, you have any questions for the applicant?
Yes, I do. The proposed 10 by 20 parking spot, what's the setback from the property line?
Setback from the property line, right now it's close to the property line the way it's drawn. And it's currently, there's an existing driveway there now that actually is on the other people's property line. If you took a look at the plot plan, Bob,
Yeah.
you can see how there's a little piece of the corner that's already on their parents' property from the previous owner who was next door. So the intent would be to go through and pave that area, but still keep some green space between it, where right now that's pavement and that would be removed.
Well, by town bylaw, there's supposed to be a 10-foot buffer. And the addition's only gonna be 11 feet from the lot line. So it looks like that's only gonna be about a 2-foot strip there.
Well, what we could do, we could simply modify and go to the corner. We could shift the driveway over more to the left. See where the
Well-
driveway is drawn now, where it's off the corner of the property? We can actually shift that over to maintain that 10-foot buffer. If that's something that the board would like to see, that's not a problem to do that. It just
Well,
means.
it's either
shift
that
the
or you're
driveway
gonna have
the
to get a
left.
variance for the buffer zone.
Okay, so if we shift it, would that accommodate the board's?
You shift it to, put it on the left side instead of the right side.
Correct.
Then you wouldn't have to put a walkway in for the entrance.
Mhm. Yeah, we could do that. I don't see that as being a problem.
The other question on sheet A31,
Mhm.
it shows the proposed first floor plan
Mhm.
with the 2 units.
Yep.
Okay, then on sheet A41, for the second floor plan,
Mhm.
it shows another unit.
No,
Well, we got 2 units or 3 units here?
no. All you have, if you look at A41, that's just showing the roof line looking through. On the left-hand side, that's the existing home, that's a 2-family cape. So it's 2-story cape right now that's existing. If you look on the right side, the proposed additions, it's single-story addition, there's no second floor on it.
I understand that. But on
And it's called.
A31,
Mhm.
it's showing the proposed first floor plan, right?
Mhm.
And you have 2 units, the single floor and then the
Correct.
pre-existing one,
Mhm.
okay? They both have kitchens in them,
Mhm.
living rooms and bedrooms, all that.
Yep.
Then you go to the existing second floor plan, it only shows 3 bedrooms and a bathroom
That's all that's up there. That's the cape on the left side, Bob.
right now.
Yep. No,
But
that's existing already. That's there.
I
Correct.
understand that.
Okay.
But on your proposed second floor plan, A41,
Mhm.
it's showing 3 bedrooms, a kitchen, a living room, a bathroom, 2 bathrooms. Or is that the first floor?
That's the first floor plan. If you look, the way he's got it drawn to show you the roof line.
That's totally confusing,
It,
because it looks like there's 3 units.
it could be, but if you go to the elevations, you'll be able to see more.
Yeah, I see what Mr. Baker Senior is saying. It's just that it draws the layout of the first floor on the second floor of the proposed addition.
That shouldn't be really on that proposed second floor.
Okay, and again, it's a progress
Yeah.
set, so we can go through and address that when we go for permit, Bob.
That should be just
There is no second floor on
over
the
the,
proposed addition. And if you look closely,
But
it's the exact mirror image looking down through it. It's exactly, that was just the way the
now
architect,
that you explained that, I understand that. But when I was looking at the plans, it looked like there was another whole unit on the second floor.
okay,
And, you know, I realize these are not for construction.
Mhm.
So when you do it,
you gotta take the balance of the documents with it, Bob, and look at the elevations, and it's shown more clearly. I think the way the architect drew it, and we can correct it when we go for permit, was he drew so it showed it like a bird's eye view of the roof peak line to show that it had a peak in that coming out to the front.
the other question is on A61, what are all these, are these dormer
The dormers are already,
sheds?
And on the
Out front.
left-hand side, because it's a cape with dormers on the
Yeah.
existing. And if you look at the right-hand side where the addition is, they're putting a peak there to give it, so it's just not a plain look.
Okay. And
So if you go back to the, let me see if I go back to, I'll try to give you the right page and if I thumb through quickly. So you can kind of see what the front elevation will look like.
well, I saw those on the design plans
Yep.
in there.
So if you go to A24, you'll see what the front elevation looks like to show you that.
Right, it shows the,
It's just to give it some architectural character so it doesn't look like a big box drawn on there.
no. And on the right side where all the bathroom and bedrooms are, it's showing the roof plan, but what are all these things that say slope in all the different rooms?
Which page are you on now?
A61. Says slope all over the paper.
That's the roof. So if you look on the, it says proposed roof plan, it's showing you which way the roof is sloping. So A61 is the proposed roof plan. So it's showing you that, for example, if you look at the main house, it shows that the dormers are an A dormer, they slope off to the main roof.
Right.
And the main roof slopes to the front, the rear roof slopes to the back, and it's basically showing you the same thing on this for the proposed addition. Where it's gonna have an A roof, it'll slope to either side, and then the piece where the valley is, it'll slope towards the front. Then the back is just a simple A roof going all the way back down.
Right.
And it's just the way they broke the roof up for framing it. So you could actually
Right.
see.
But it just, it didn't have, it doesn't have any explanation really that what he was trying to present, you know? Doesn't say that the roof is gonna slope this way or that way on that A61.
No, it's just, I guess the architect would assume that whoever was looking at it would refer back to the elevation. And they would see which way the roof was flowing. And again, if you really take it and you go back to where he's got his sheets tying through, you'll see how he's got, if you go to like A8, you see how you can see the second floor of the existing structure. And then you look in the back of that where the kitchen living room is, you can see where it's just a slope roof there.
Right, I saw that.
Oh, I mean, and he's got a detail showing that cut through. And again, they're progress prints. But it's a simple one-story addition with a basement. And the idea is to have single floor living space there so that you can age in place. That's basically what it's for.
No, that's what I'm trying to look for too.
Yeah, well, me too. When I just hit 62 and it's like, I got a 2-story colonial. It's like either I got to put a chairlift in or I got to think about, downsizing and finding a ranch, there's something to be said about that, to have a ranch,
And on the plot plan, could you just kind of explain the variances they're looking for?
Okay.
On the right side, the left side, the rear, the front, if there's any.
So if you take a look at the plot plan, we'll start with the front. Based on the mere fact that the frontage itself is under the 110 lineal feet that's required.
Right.
The pre-existing condition, it has, I believe, 90 lineal feet of frontage. So by right with 90 lineal feet in a corner lot, you gain 1 foot and then you gain an addition for every 10 feet, I believe. So thereby you would have the ability to encroach on that right side to 13 feet as opposed to the 11 feet. But unfortunately, the way the architect had drew it, in order to make things function and more feasible, he had to encroach, and that's why we're going for the dimensional variance for the setback on the side for that additional 2 feet. So normally, in a case
Well,
like this,
It
we
looks like
look
you're
to try
gonna
and,
need 4 feet.
well, it's actually not 4 feet though. Because by right, you can go to 13 feet. Am I mistaken with that? Based on our current zoning bylaws? So it'll end up with 11 feet, which is 4 feet less, but we're only going for a 2-foot variance.
Can you
Because-
help, I'm sorry, Mr. Kimball, can you help me understand where you're finding in the zoning code that we can reduce the lot, the dimensional requirements for the front lot?
Yeah, if you actually go to zoning 415 attachment 1,
Yeah,
lot up front on multiple roadways, it was added at town meeting on 5/2/11. It was
Okay.
Article 46.
so you're saying it's 415/46?
That's what I'm saying, based on what I have here for paperwork that was added, that article was Article 46 added back in 2011.
And it said that you can reduce your lot size when you're on a corner lot?
You can reduce your lot size provided that you don't have the frontage. So it's a pre-existing condition where they have 90 linear feet of frontage. But because of it being a corner lot, they're allowed to go through and increase. They gain 1 foot for every 10 foot they're short.
Allison, what the bylaw states is for every, for an existing non-conforming lot, for every 10 feet shy of the 110 frontage requirement, you're allowed to reduce your side yard setback by 1 foot. So he's got 90 feet of frontage, that's 20 feet less than 110. Therefore, he can reduce his side yard from 15 down to 13. He can reduce it by 2 feet.
Okay,
So he's saying that the real setback or the required setback is 13 feet. He's proposing an 11-foot setback. So the maximum relief he is asking for is 2 feet on that side yard.
okay. So
Dimension.
can I ask you a follow-up? 'Cause I was trying to understand this today, reading through the bylaw. Where are you getting the minimum lot size for that second unit?
Look through what I have. And again, I think Greg just explained it. I mean,
No, he did explain because you're on a corner lot. I understand that. I'm trying to understand the minimum lot size requirement per unit,
for the,
which is not, from my understanding of the zoning, has nothing to do with whether or not you're on a corner lot.
no, that wasn't for, so I think you're asking 2 different questions, Allison.
No, I think I'm asking what is the minimum lot size requirement per unit for the lot?
For any lot in Rockland, okay, for a single family home, you need 3/4 of an acre, okay,
Per unit, correct?
per unit. But with R4, you're allowed to put 4 units in that same 32,000 square foot area.
I'm not sure that that's accurate from what I'm seeing. It looks like you'd have to have that per unit.
So you're saying you need to have a 3-acre lot to have a 4-family in Rockland? Because I'd be
that's-
hard pressed to find any of those in Rockland, and I've lived in Rockland for nearly 60 years.
At
That's
the-
what I,
At the current bylaws,
Mhm.
each unit has to have the 36, or the 34,670 per unit,
The 32,670.
the 32,670, I'm sorry.
So you're saying, so the way that's written right now, then nobody,
Unless you get variances for it,
and that's why we're here.
or you put a PUD in.
correct. I'm just trying to understand, Mr. Kimball, exactly what
Hmm.
variances we need so that I can memorialize my notes appropriately.
Okay. So what we were looking to do was get relief so that we could go with a 2-family within the existing lot size of the 18,316 square feet of the existing lot. Okay?
Okay.
It's an R4 zone, and currently on the street, there's a multitude of properties that are multifamilies that have 8,000 square feet, 13,000 square feet lot size, 11,000 square feet. And then if we even talk about the senior housing, I don't know how many units are over there, but that's only a 4.6 acre lot. So I don't know how many units are there, but if we were to take that and break that down, for example, we'd probably need a lot more than that just to house the people we have there in our community.
At today's bylaws.
Right.
Back when those were built, the bylaw was different. And the footage was different.
That may be the case. But once you start improving things, right? Where are we at? It's the same thing. We're both looking for the same thing. I think we're both looking for a variance, right? All we were trying to say, the neighborhood itself, Bob, if you drive down Concord Street, because I pulled all the dockets on every piece of property. So there's 7 units on the corner of Concord and Market Street for a 1.3 acre lot, okay? 1.34 acre lot. So that certainly wouldn't comply with 7, because it'd be 7 times 32,000. You'd need much more than what's there now. You move up to the house adjacent to it, the 2-family on 8,358 square feet. You move up, you got 4 units on 13,439 square feet. You have 5 units on the next property at 11,830 square feet. And then you can continue down. There's another 2-family directly on the corner of Albion and Concord that has 12,932 square feet. This particular property has 18,000 square feet. And all we were looking to do was make it into a 2-family so that we could have somebody age in place in the future and have the financial stability to actually pay for the property so that as they age, they can stay there. I mean, that's the biggest component of it. And then if we even go back to the corner of Market and Concord Street, there's a 3-family there with 11,670 square feet. So I think the neighborhood supports it, and the fact that we were going for the dimensional use was because obviously, if you needed to do 2 units, we'd have to have 1.5 acres, correct? For 2-family.
Right.
And I've got 7 units on the corner that's on 1.1 acres, never mind 1.5 acres.
Well,
And I know it could be pre-existing. I know all of that as well, but I don't know for sure when it happened or when it got changed or moved. You know? So the dimensional stuff that we were looking for was the side setback for the 2 feet.
Mhm.
And then the dimension for the actual size of the property to be a 2-family within the 18,316. And all I did was I mean, there's another house right up the street on Concord Street. I can remember that was a legal court case, and I think that's getting extended tonight so that you can go through and have 4 units on less than that square footage. I think it's a small lot as well. Now, I know that's a 40B and that's a different issue,
Yeah.
but I'm just trying to point out the fact that we're not trying to do anything that's gonna hurt the neighborhood. We're just trying to make sure that someone can stay there.
I'd like to ask a question, make a comment.
Mhm.
All right, just want to make sure Greg's okay, because he's running the
Yes,
meeting. So
Mr. Yali.
thank you. Just my reading of the maximum number of dwelling units on an R4 on the 3/4 acre lot is that they could have 4 dwelling units. When I read this chart, technically they could have 4 dwelling units on a single 32,600 square foot lot. But here's a question, and I'm going to put it to the board because you guys know and have the experience. Is there anything that you saw in the plan that says why they can't build back instead of against the side setback and, you know, and just meet the side setback requirement of what the applicant's saying is 13 feet? Can any board member tell me that the elevation says that they can't build out towards the back?
Respectfully, Greg, I think maybe that's an answer that before we opine on it, the applicant should offer some information on.
Yes.
Okay, so the property starts to slope off towards the back. So the further we would, if we pushed it over and went out further, then the single story would be more like a story and a half up off the ground. And the idea was so that they could have a deck and they could use it and still access their backyard, as opposed to pushing it out further. Because the further we go out, the higher it would actually be to get down to the ground. And as the person ages, we want to make sure they can actually navigate a set of stairs and a landing to get up there safely. And still have some of the backyard for future use, because currently there's 3 young children who live in the home and they want to be able to still have a backyard so the kids don't play, because Concord Street has become a rather busy street over time, as well as John Dunn Memorial Drive has been fairly busy. There's a lot of, with the, we'll say the plaza behind it, there's a lot of traffic in and out. There's a lot of traffic that goes down Concord Street, whether they're going over to the golf course, or they're going up to the hockey rink, or they're just cutting through. There's a lot more than when I grew up.
Mm.
So we want to try to maintain some safety for the children in the backyard as opposed to the front yard.
Mr. Baker, do you have any questions for the applicant?
Mr. Baker, senior or junior?
Senior, yeah, you.
The off-street parking requirements. How many parking spaces are needed for the 2 units?
For the 2 units, so currently we need 1 space for the new unit. And then we need 2 spaces for the existing home, okay? And if you talked earlier about the 10-foot buffer zone, Bob, if we push that over to the corner, we could accommodate more than 4 parking spaces, because at that point, I
Right.
think the most feasible thing would be squared off with the existing curb cut and just tie it into the corner of the house.
Right.
And then we don't need to do any curb cut, and I think that would more than accommodate any parking.
When you
And
do,
I'm not opposed to doing that, because
Yeah.
it makes sense to put a brand new driveway in at that point.
right. The plans that you submit will have to have that information on them. You know, the parking requirements per unit and how many spaces you have.
And if the board was to grant us approval and make that a condition, we would certainly comply.
That's all I have now, Greg. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Kimball.
Thank you.
Mr. Baker?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Between the application, the plan, and the information that Mr. Kimball has provided to questions asked before I'm speaking, I have no questions at this time. I do have a comment, and I don't mean to put words in your mouth, Mr. Kimball, but when you cite the other properties in the neighborhood, I think what you're suggesting is that this proposal is in no sense out of character with what's existing in the neighborhood at this point.
Exactly, and thank you for categorizing it that way. I probably should have said that. I was just really trying to, I just wanted people to understand that it's within the character of the existing neighborhood and street. So thank you for pointing that out. I appreciate that.
And thank you. I have nothing further, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Baker. So Mr. Kimball, for clarity here,
Mhm.
Section 14-35 off-street parking.
Mhm.
It says here, dwellings in general, at least 2 spaces for each single-family residence and at least 3 spaces for each dwelling unit in a 2-family residence or a multi-family residence. So it looks like your parking is going to have to accommodate 6 spaces, and it's also going to have a 10-foot setback green space buffer
Excuse me.
off the property line. And so for clarity, you're stating that you're seeking a 2-family residence.
Mhm.
You are going to have to determine your relief for the lot area. There's also some, the setbacks that you had explained. And you're proposing the deck that's gonna have to meet the front yard setback, or you're gonna have to provide for relief from that. But on your zoning application, in order for a variance to be entertained, it's got some performance standards that you have to meet. One is you have to show that there's no other way that you can put this addition on where you're actually forced to have relief. The shape of the lot, something unique characteristic element of the lot has to justify why you are seeking to get a variance. I mean, you've stated that it's in harmony with the neighboring residents, and you listed some, a number of residents. Many of them, I believe, are existing non-conforming. But for the board to act on the variance, we have to have it, spelled out to us exactly, on paper, on a written record, on the plan, what relief you're seeking, and you have to determine, why that's in the public interest, any hardships. These are the hardship cases. Usually an attorney helps these applicants with these areas because they're hard to overcome. Not saying that they can't be overcome, but they are a difficult thing to overcome, and the board has to be able to clearly see something on a written record. Whether it's typically done on the plan, doesn't necessarily have to be, but so that we know what exactly we're acting on. So you definitely have a parking issue. You've got well, you know about your dimensional, right? You know about the buffers. And the area of the lot. So at this point, you've got 4 voting members on a variance application. I mean, it's up to you. Do you want the board to continue it, to update your plans, maybe consult an attorney or something, or what direction would you like to proceed at this point?
Well, with regards to the driveway that Mr. Baker had mentioned, the current driveway is not within the 10-foot buffer zone right now. It's beyond it, okay? So if we were to extend the driveway over to the left, we could certainly accommodate 6 spots by leaving those 2 existing spots that are non-conforming already, okay? When you mentioned the front setback from where the stairs are going from the existing piece, we're not encroaching forward to the existing property line, which is the 41.4 feet, I believe, Greg, when you're coming from the front. Now, if we need to go back and set that at the setback off the front that you want to see in writing, but we're not coming beyond that right now. It's already there. It's going backwards, not frontwards. So for you, if we need to go through and state that, and that's what the board would rather see, then I would seek a continuous so that we can restate those facts. And then if that's going to make everyone feel a little bit better. As far as the lot size itself, and again, the idea with the lot sloping off the back was to allow enough of the rear yard to remain so that the children that are living there now, the 3 children, can have a backyard to safely play in, as opposed to having to go out on the front yard, you know, on John Dunn Memorial Drive. Those are both busy, fairly busy streets. So the premise behind it was to go through and give them a large yard so they could play and be kids. And at the same time, the proposed addition, I mean, has the other Mr. Baker, you know, which I appreciate him pointing out, it's well within the character of the neighborhood, and we were trying to make sure that you could age in place in that. And so it was really just common sense stuff. Now, if the board would rather see this as opposed to, you know, if it needs to be actually written on the plan so we can go that way, then we'll ask for a continuance then and we'll put it on the plan. If that's what you prefer to do. I mean, I don't know what the flavor of the
Yeah,
board.
well, it's up to you. There's also the setback of the proposed deck off of John Dunn Memorial Drive. That's a proposed structure.
It's 15 feet right now off the property line, right?
Right,
Side.
right. Off the that front, that's not a sideline, that's a street, so they consider that a front yard setback.
So that's a front yard setback then?
Yeah, yeah,
then-
both
Then I
on
should,
on a corner lot, both both sides of the street are considered frontage and therefore carry front yard setbacks.
so if that was the case, the addition itself would never wouldn't be able to do anything with the property. Because the addition itself wouldn't conform, even if you got rid of the deck. If you're gonna consider that to be frontage, and if that's frontage, then maybe we put a curb cut in. And we put in more housing back there. I don't know. We were just trying to maintain what was there for the existing footprint and keep a backyard. We were just trying to use common sense. But if that's the case, then maybe we rethink the whole thing. And maybe you do that, pup, that you mentioned, you know? Or maybe we go through and we put in, I don't know, maybe we do like the other people did at the other end of Concord Street. Sell it to that same developer and let them put in 12 units on this lot.
Well, I think actually we're just at the cusp of safe harbor right now. We're under
Yeah.
consideration, so
And
we
that's
don't
what-
have
and that's
to.
what we are too, Allison, because we're trying to be realistic with someone who has a home here and have the ability to put an addition on. Or do we go through and we cut this thing down and do 900 square feet and we do an ADU by right, and then we don't do anything?
Sure, Mr. Kimball, I just want to make sure that you understand I wasn't trying to be contrary. I was trying to offer you some
I
additional
understand.
information to help you make better decisions about your lot. That's all.
No, I understand that, Allison, but we're also trying to have common sense with the board that's here to know that, okay, it's an existing dwelling, the way it's drawn. They're having a proposed addition to use common area in the front to come in to share the space so it's not overburdensome, and have a shared deck together in the backyard. And keep the backyard so that their children can play safely. I mean, but if the board wants to go through, I mean, right now, the 15.2, if that's considered frontage, it's a non-conforming lot. That's why we're here. So if we need to go through and we'll say if we need to ask for we'll say postpone till we go back and do that, then maybe we rethink the whole thing and we hire an attorney and go the other way. I mean, all we were simply trying to do was get an addition on so that the aging parent can get moved in, you know? But again, I've seen a lot of crazy things in town in my time. I mean, I can remember the lot up the street that you're talking about next, that didn't meet the side setback. Someone bought it at auction from the town. And now we're gonna have four units on that very lot that wasn't big enough for one house. So it seems to be I think sometimes we shoot ourselves in the foot. That's just my own opinion based on my experience, you know, but.
Greg, if I
Mr.
may,
Chairman, if I may?
Yes,
Yeah, on the 15-foot setback with the proposed deck, that is deemed insufficient even though it falls within the dimensions of the existing dwelling?
yes, because it's new construction.
yeah. Um, it would be a variance if it was less than 15.2 or 15.2, he could probably go with the finding. But that corner of that deck increases the nonconformity of the house.
I
But
mean,
it is theoretically, theoretically, it's something curable by variance, should the board be so inclined.
Yeah, I mean,
or a condition.
It would be a 10-foot variance. You need 25 feet frontage.
I understand.
Greg, were you saying that because if the existing dwelling is 15.2, if they extended that built, the dwelling, the building to maintain the 15.2, that could have been like a section 6 finding, or is that what you were saying? Or something
yeah,
effect?
once, well,
Or something of that nature?
yeah,
I mean,
I might be able to get by with a finding. But I mean, I can't make that decision
I
based
mean,
on,
I'm not opposed, members of the board, I'm not opposed to, I know Mr. Baker pointed out the parking situation. I'm not opposed to you having conditions so we can solve the parking. I'm not opposed to setting back the proposed deck to the 15.2 to make it so that it's a section 6 finding, okay? I'm looking to try to do whatever we need to do to make sure we can achieve this without having to go really crazy, because at that point, if we start over, then we'd be looking at something entirely different possibly for the property, as opposed to trying to make it a simple 2-family, keep a family here and move their aging parent in for the time being, but have the ability in the future to have the financial wherewithal to refinance it if they need to, and pay for it as the taxes grow annually, because they do. And that's all we're trying to do, is just trying to use a little common sense, and we're not opposed with the board, because the board are members of the town as well, to make sure if a 15.2 is gonna do it for you, then I'm fine with a 15.2. As Mr. Baker had pointed out, with the parking spot as proposed, if we need to push that over onto the buffer, we will. But, I mean, we can do whatever we need to do to accommodate to make it work. I mean,
Can I just bring up a quick point of order to the board? If the reason the applicant is before you is based on information that was provided by our zoning code enforcement officer / building commissioner, Tom Rubel. If you want to request a change to his decision that this doesn't require, relief for a myriad of dimensional variances, a relief for minimum parking requirements, relief for minimum lot size requirements, and you want to try and utilize section 6 finding, you'll have to go back to him and we'll have to renotice this. I just wanted to make sure everyone was clear that.
yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I thought of that as well.
Yeah.
Basically, it hasn't been advertised as a finding.
Right.
Yeah.
Correct. He's asking it's been advertised for dimensional variances.
Or
I-
could the board grant the variances with conditions?
Yes.
Yeah, we could. I don't know if it'll get you what you want.
I need clarification from the applicant.
Yes, Mr. Gallagher.
When I was asking about whether you could build back instead of to the side,
Mhm.
you mentioned about having a backyard. Now, I don't know how big the backyard is exactly. But if you were to build out back, I don't know how much backyard you'd lose that would make it a useless backyard for the grandchildren or the children to use that you want kids to play in. I don't know what your goal is for the backyard, how big you need it to be. But I thought you also mentioned something about the grandparents basically being able to access the backyard. And there's a staircase already on the common deck.
Mhm.
And if you don't move that staircase but build out back instead of, I would think they're going to get to the backyard using that exact same staircase. So the response, unless I misheard or misremembered, I thought part of the response was the older generation wouldn't be able to access the backyard, because of if they go too far out, the elevation would be too high. So not quite clear whether, if I misheard or misremembered, the goal was for them to be able to access the backyard, if you could remind me, and how were they supposed to access the backyard? And how big do you want the backyard to be that 5, 10 feet back would make it an unideal, an unusable backyard for the children to play in and enjoy? That's my question
So I
to the applicant.
think the premise behind it was so that it wasn't gonna be as high up once it's built out. Cause if we build back the house itself, okay, so we'd have to tie back into that deck, and the deck may actually end up growing at that point as well, so that it's squared off the way you're coming out of the back door that's there, so you're not just coming out of a door and hitting a set of stairs. The way it's drawn now, the door's in the corner, but the landing's off the other side.
Yeah,
So you don't just walk, go out the door and end up down the stairs. That's all. That's the way it was designed.
okay.
Again,
Stairs
trying,
can be moved.
what we were trying to do is maintain as much as the backyard as possible.
Yep.
That they could be utilized, whether it's gonna be for gardening at some point, whether in the future they put a pool in for the children, whether they still have green space. I mean, there's a multitude of things. Whether they put in a small, court of some sort, like a sport court or something in the future. I can't say, but they were trying to maintain as much of the backyard as possible where the street's a busy street.
Yeah.
Greg, I got a question if you don't mind.
Sure.
If he was to the deck, Mr. Kimball, that's gonna be wooden
Yep.
material.
Wooden deck.
If he was to put that deck, take the deck out and put in a patio, would he need the 15-foot, 25-foot setback?
Yeah, I think the
Patio?
patio would be okay.
Patio would not be attached to the building. Yes,
Right.
that would be.
Technically, a patio is not a permanent structure,
Right.
but I mean,
Might be one idea for you to look at, Mr. Kimball.
I appreciate that. I'm making notes.
and Mr. Campbell, you make an argument that for your variance that you can't go extend into the backyard because of the grade. I mean, that's like a condition of the shape of the lot and so forth, but we don't have any topo back there. It's hard for the board to really, see what the extreme issue is that, you can't build out back. One of our board members had noticed that there is a stair on the deck out back, and it looks like it's there for, an elderly person can access the backyard. I don't know what the topography out back there is.
But there's also, there's a walkout, Greg, on the existing house. So if you look, that's why the height there, it's almost a story right there. So there's an existing walkout basement on the existing house. If you go to page 826, you see a little bit more clarity with that. So as the property slopes off, we were trying to keep it so it wasn't going to be higher. Because common deck, the idea was so that they could access where they have a kitchen window now in the existing house, they would convert that to a door, so they would have access to the back as well. So it was limited based on the layout because they had already pushed the house over as far as they could to that side. Otherwise, the next window over is the bathroom, and nobody wants to walk through a bathroom to get out to a deck. And then if they went all the way over to the right side, that's the toy room in the house right now on the first floor. And it's not conducive for anybody. There would be no deck space really left at that point if you went way over. So we were trying to maintain just the line of the home and square it off so there'd be a large enough deck for both families to enjoy, you know?
So I'm looking at A1 and I'm seeing the deck off to the side.
Yep.
And
So A1 is, there's nothing on A1. What sheet you on then, Greg?
A7. I'm sorry, that's a 7. I thought it was a 1.
Oh, no worries.
But it it doesn't look like there was a walkout at that on the basement at that side where the deck is based on where he's showing.
You look at the elevation I had mentioned to you before, let me just get to it. It shows it clearly. So if you go to A21, the existing rear elevation, you'll see the existing walkout there. And then if you continue on where the deck is drawn in on A26, you see how the height of the deck is above the doorway there of the walkout basement. So that area is sloped back now.
So I see on A21 there's a walkout, there's a door.
That's an existing walkout of the existing home.
Right.
And then if you go to A26, you see the deck is drawn above that walkout, so you can still get to the walkout.
Okay.
So what we were doing was stepping the deck down one from the house to begin with, then putting the platform on the outside of the deck, stepping down one, so you can try to gain 2 steps down already, just between stepping onto the deck, then stepping onto the landing. And then the set of stairs coming down, which depending on how the slope ends up there right now, I know it drops off significantly. Was to go through and give them access. But haven't put a lift or something like that in. Because if you're trying to navigate coming down the side of the yard, it has a lot of slope for an elderly person. Someone who's a lot younger than me, I'm sure they could probably walk it no problem at all. Myself, it drops off. And again, I know it's hard for the board with topos, without a topo, but the idea was with the progress prints to go through and then get the variances for the dimensions squared away. And if there's any conditions, we could those with the actual prints for permanent.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, and this
Yes.
this is based partly on what Mr. Kimball just said. My assumption, and well, it could be wrong, they often are, but if the notion is going out back and essentially downhill, I'm assuming that's going to substantially increase the construction cost as well.
It would.
Well, if there aren't any other questions from the board, I'd like to.
Well, I have a question, Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair.
Sure.
What's the wording? What's the wording about, that he's trying to cite that you were repeating back to him? The definition or that says, topography and all this stuff that it makes it so you can't do what you're trying to do. I was just trying to find it and I want to read it so I can understand what he's saying and what you've already reiterated, I believe, what he's trying to say.
Yeah, it's basically a variance criteria based on hardship.
Yeah. I know I've seen it written, I just can't remember it.
Yeah.
I mean, you and like Rob repeat it verbatim without even thinking about it, like your home phone number. But you have to think about it. I get it. It's like get all the words to go around the corner is funny.
It's hard.
But I want to read. I want to read it.
now.
Are you thinking of chapter 48?
What is it?
Like
What is it?
the state legislation? Is that what you're referring to? Where that talks about like odd shaped lot?
I don't know what
Yeah.
it was, but when it says
Yeah.
topography, all that stuff.
Yeah, so generally, the rule of thumb when you're talking about meeting the threshold, and bear in mind, like there's like, things that are conditional, things that are forbidden, and things where like the use isn't consistent, like those types of things that have different benchmarks for thinking about whether or not the relief that's sought meets that criteria. But when we're talking about topography, usually it means that the shape of the lot is so angled that, you know, what is allowed can't reasonably fit within the parameters of the lot. Does that make sense? Like, you have like an odd angle that, you know, you can't square off to meet like a parking requirement, or like, for example, do you remember that we just recently heard an applicant where they had bought a lot, owned it forever, and the town like zoned one half of it as like industrial and the former half had been residential. Like those are the type of hardships that would like qualify for allowing relief for like a top, like the challenges of the lot itself. And
Well,
that's not a statement whether or not I think that this meets that. I don't have an opinion. That's for you guys to figure out. But that is generally what is meant by that type of
I
language.
thought Mr. Baker also pointed out the fact of feasibility. So which would be impact
Well,
financial.
in a sense, Mr.
That would
Kimball,
have.
that's accurate, but the feasibility infers that what you are trying to do is already allowed by the zoning. And so this, I think what the board is trying to weigh out is the relief that you're requesting a challenge that is presented by like the topography and a challenge of the lot size, or is it because what you're seeking to do is beyond the scope of what's allowed in the zoning? Does that give you a little bit better context for that?
First off, I'd like to say, I don't think what we're seeking to do is beyond what's allowed in the R4 zone, number one. Number two, had the
Well,
lot been wider.
Again, I was just trying to answer a question. I don't have an
I get
opinion.
that. I get that. All I'm doing, Allison, and don't take it the wrong way, I'm just responding to what your statement was. So in the scope of things, I think the fact that going for a two-family in an R4 zone is not beyond, a reasonable request, because we're not asking for a four-family, we're merely asking for a two-family within a R4 zone, okay? And as far as had the house had, and again, it's, before, whatever was built non-conforming, had it had that actual frontage, I mean, we probably wouldn't even be here because the house might be in a better position where we wouldn't need the variance at all. You follow me? Because it may have been a lot more frontage and the house would have been to one side or something where it could have been drawn differently. But again, we're just dealt with what we have because of the corner lot. And then you talk about, if you consider that corner lot to be frontage, I mean, it doesn't conform now when we were trying to stay within the footprint. And I think Mr. Tansey pointed out, as opposed to the 15 feet, if we stayed within the 15.2, which we're not opposed to doing, that could be where we could at least circumvent that portion, okay? And as far as the side setback, again, the way it was drawn, it was so that they would have agent in place and the ability without having to go back and further encroach on the slope. Now, I build a lot of different things commercially in other places. You can certainly do anything building wise. It's a matter of cost and impact. And we're in Rockland. We're not in Wellesley. We're not in Hingham. We're not in Duxbury. And we're trying to make it so that this becomes an affordable structure for them to be able to do, support their aging parents for the time being, and then in the future, support themselves as they age. And possibly, if they have to, maybe it's a son or a daughter who moves in at one time. I don't know who's going to move in, but I know financially, if they want to refinance, it's better to have a legal two-family than to have a single family that, as you know, if the market turns down, then you're underwater, So, and I mean, everyone's single-family homes are investment. I mean, I can remember back in the day, my parents paid 18,000 for their home. Someone bought a house around the corner for 40,000, and then it went for 300,000. Then they were throwing the keys back at the bank when the market crashed. So I think we're trying to do a couple of things here. We're trying to make sure that we're within the character of the neighborhood. We're trying to make sure we give the owners the ability and the staying power to stay in Rockland and provide housing that's, economical for their aging relative right now, which happens to be a parent and potentially a grandparent of them moving in with them. And in the future, so they can actually maintain the cost of the home, the added expense of the taxes and whatnot. So,
So, Mr. Galley, what I,
Yes, please, thank you. Oh, I'm
okay,
sorry.
it's basically to answer your question that you were looking for the verbiage. They can be found in section 15-89 of the bylaw. And real quickly, it says, this is right out of the bylaw, before any variance is granted, the board must find all of the following conditions to be present.
Thank you.
Okay, there's 5 of them. Conditions of circumstances are unique to the applicant's lot, structure, or building and do not apply to the neighboring land, structures, and buildings in the same district. Strict application of the provisions of this bylaw would deprive the applicant of reasonable use of the lot, structure, or building in a manner equivalent to the use permitted to be made by other owners of their neighborhood lands, structures, buildings in the same district. Unique conditions and circumstances are not the results of actions of the applicant taking subsequent to the adoption of this bylaw. Relief, if approved, will not cause substantial detriment to the public good or impair the purposes and intent of this bylaw. Relief, if approved, will not constitute a grant of special privilege inconsistent with the limitations upon other properties in the district. So that's
Thank
our
you.
variance criteria. I think that's the verbiage that you were seeking, Mr.
Yes,
Gallagher.
thank you.
Oh.
Thank you. That's exactly it. I have a follow-up question to that purpose of asking about that verbiage. Because we don't want to be burdensome economically to the residents and bureaucratically unnecessarily. But I want to ask, for what's fair is fair, we required of your neighbors. So this is maybe just a question for the vice chair. What documentation or evidence do we require of the applicant to prove that they have these criteria, topography, soil, all this stuff? Because I haven't seen it myself. I'm seeing like one little sliver that says that there's a slope there, but I'm not seeing how it can't be over here and can't be over there, the stairs. So I'm wondering what should we require of an applicant? Is it their word, or do we need something on a map? Do we need a document, a surveyor's map or something of that effect that would justify
Well,
1589.1?
basically, yeah, it's up to the applicant to convince the board is basically the bottom line. There's no in many situations with the variance, it's a judgment call on the board.
Yep.
Based upon evidence submitted by the applicant.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr.
If I may, based on those 5 criteria you just read, and comparing that with the information that the applicant has provided, again, both verbally and on the documentation he submitted, I don't think there is any one of those criteria that cannot be met. But I think what he needs to do, and this is just a suggestion, because I certainly believe he's acting in good faith, and I'm actually inclined to support his intent here. But I think what he needs to do, as perhaps suggested by Mr. Galley, is present us with more in terms of documentation. For example, why it would not be in the best, well, why it would not be ideal or appropriate or even possible to go out back. I'm not as concerned. In fact, I'm not concerned at all about the lot size. As he's demonstrated, granted the circumstances might have been different when those other buildings were put up. There are other more congested lots in the neighborhood. If the concern, though, is there may be another way to get what is done other than by the plan that he's presented, i.e. going out the back, he would need to show us why the back is not feasible. And I think he's given us at least 3 or 4 reasons why that is the case. But because we are voting on a variance or variances to the bylaws, I think we need something additionally, as Mr. Gallo suggested, in writing, whether that's an amended or a new application, whether that's a topographical map, whether it's, I'm not even going to suggest to the applicant what he should provide, but just something that we look at when we're considering the application and says to us, yes, this is how each of those criteria are met. Some of them are fairly easy. It doesn't appear that he's done anything to the lot to put himself in that position. It certainly, as we've discussed several times, it seems to be in character with the lot. My main concern, as I said, is not my main concern, but I think the main dilemma that we're in right now is there a reasonable, non-burdensome alternative to what he is now proposing? I tend to think that there is not. But I would just suggest to the applicant that if he can provide us with more information as to why that's the case, perhaps the other members of the board would be inclined to think as I do. So, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Sure. We just, a variance is not an easy thing to grant. It's part of our bylaw. There's a place for it. I just want to, let the board know that, the applicant has to prove to us that there really isn't any feasible way of mitigating some of these variances. Maybe if he goes out a little bit further back, he can take off, eliminate the side yard variance. Maybe he can't. We want to be careful about setting precedents with the variance of lot acres, the area. And we want to be able to make sure that we know what we are, voting on as far as relief, and that it's not verbally conveyed, but it's in writing for the record. As far as the parking, I just want to advise the applicant, this is a new application. Right now, you've got parking that encroaches onto another lot. Granted that lot is related to you, but it may not always be. So we can't grant an application and relief when there's an encroachment on another lot. We are looking for 6 spaces unless you can justify that with a variance, but I wouldn't, parking is something that you need. It's a 2-family residence, and the use that you are using now for an elderly person, keep in mind that the board has to consider that years down the road, houses get sold, uses get changed, and it's gotta, if you're, building a 2-family house, it has to function as a 2-family house. Even if you're not going to be fully using the potential of a 2-family house, someday it will be. So parking is a must. So I just want to throw that out there. I would like to go to public comment if there isn't any other comments from the board or question from the members of the board.
I'm all set.
All set.
All right.
I'm fine, thank you.
Are you all set, Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Okay. So at this point, I'd like to take any comments from the public that may be in favor of this application.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I got a phone call from one of the neighbors. He could not be here because of work, but he would like to voice is in favor of this project.
Okay,
It'd be Mr. Corby.
all right. Did he submit anything in writing?
No, he called me like 6:45 tonight.
Okay,
It's on his lunch break. He just wanted me to know to pass that on to the board. They so desire to take that information.
sure.
Do we have to get his
Allison,
address for the record?
Yes,
I'm here, Greg. Can you hear me okay?
yes, is there any members of the public seeking to ask questions or make
Uh,
comments?
I can't see anything with like a raised hand, or I think the chat's off. We didn't receive any comments via email, or letters or anything like that.
Okay. Um,
Do you want me to ask anyone if they want to speak to unmute themselves? If they have anything they'd like to
sure,
add?
at least that way it's official. We'll get it on.
Sure.
record.
So if there is anyone who wants to speak for or against this application, please, show us or unmute yourself and speak now. Seeing no one, I'm going to pass it back to you, Mr. Tansey.
Okay, thank you, Alice.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Baker Senior.
at this time, I'd like to make a motion that we continue the public hearing on this 83 Concord Street for 1 month to let the applicant decide what he wants to do and if he wants to submit more information to us. A new parking plan and a topo plan.
Okay, I've got a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay,
Before we vote, Mr. Chairman, could inquiry be made of the applicant as to whether that's something he's interested in doing?
yeah, I was thinking about that myself. Mr. Kimball, what is your preference? Do you want the board to continue to allow you to update your plan?
I think based on what I'm hearing from the board and the fact that Mr. Rosa had to recuse himself, I mean, it puts us in a situation where we need to have an all or nothing vote. So
Yeah,
based on that, what I'm reading from at least the audience, or we'll say from the board, is it looks like the board needs something so they can actually have something in writing to warrant their decision ultimately. So I think at this point, we'll go through with the continuance. We'll take a look at the parking plan. I'll take a look at the topo and see what we can do to provide that. Now, in the event it's 1 month, how much time frame do we have to provide that documentation to the board? Because I have to go out and I have to obtain that documentation.
well, would you prefer 2 months or a later
No,
date?
I want to try to do it as quickly as possible, but
Right, but
I want to make
yeah.
sure that if you say it's a month continuous, but I need it within the next week, I don't know if that's feasible until we contact, the surveyor of record, so they can,
We would probably need it Friday before the meeting.
okay. Because I'd be more opposed to go with the continuance because we've already advertised it, and it's a
Right,
continuance.
that's why
Okay.
because if we withdraw without prejudice, you have to refile the whole thing over again.
I know, and that's why I'd rather go with the continuance. but
That's why I made this.
I appreciate that motion, I do.
All right. So the motion's on the floor. It was seconded.
Just a point of order, Mr. Chairman, do we have to
Yes.
specify a date and time?
That's, yeah.
You do. Yeah, I'm trying
Yeah.
to figure out now when what the June date would be.
I know we have one on the 4th and
So would that be like the 18th? Does that sound right? 2 weeks after?
I don't have a calendar.
Is that the, let me just.
Well, it'll be the 17th.
It would be Tuesday, the 17th?
Yeah.
Okay.
The 3rd and the
Kimball,
17th.
Mr. Kimball,
Oh,
would you
that's-
rather go six weeks out?
Let's shoot for the 17th with, provided I can get the information to the board prior. If we can't, if we have to make an appearance, I will send a letter that we need to extend the time to the next meeting based on us. I'm gonna try to get the information as quickly as I can, Bob.
Yeah.
You know, to satisfy the board, but in the event we can't, then we'll notify the board that we need to extend that timeline for the continuance.
That's easy enough to do.
Okay, so should we say 7:35 on the 17th?
Yes. I'll amend my motion to continue the public hearing on 83 Concord Street to June 17th at 7:35.
Okay. Do I hear a second?
Second,
Okay, so moved. All in favor, Mr. Galley?
Yes.
You gotta do a roll call, Greg.
that's what he's
Yeah.
doing.
That's what I'm doing. So
Oh, I'm sorry.
yeah, so that was a yes, Mr. Galley?
Yes, yes.
Mr. Baker Senior,
Yes,
Mr. Baker Junior,
Yes,
and I'm a yes. So, very good. So
Thank
it's
you.
been continued to June 17th at 7:35.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
thank you, Mr. Kimball.
All right. Good night.
Have a nice evening.
Can I,
I'm gonna text Rob now to come back.
Okay, all right.
Okay, he should be here in a minute.
Thing, just my camera. Start video. I'm technologically advanced.
Yeah, you are.
Nice. All right.
Judging by your picture, I thought you were sitting in your truck the whole time.
No, that's the Google picture.
Yeah, thank you, Rob.
Let me see. Where are we right now? I've got my agenda up here.
You're at 400 Hingham.
7:35 p.m. Notice is hereby get. Oh, it actually is. Everybody good? You guys were. It's like 9 o'clock. You guys need a bathroom break?
yeah,
No,
actually, I
we're
want
good.
I want a 5-minute break because I want to get up for a minute. I want to turn a fan on. Like stupid things.
second.
I want
5
to take the
minutes.
break and I don't want to walk away from the meeting. So
5 minutes. 5 minutes. Do your
Thank you.
thing. Just
Thank you.
take your 5 minutes. Everybody take a 5 minute. Go ahead. All right, how did I turn my camera back on? Start that thing. Yes. All right, board members, is everybody here? Everybody good?
Yep.
Yes? Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
So let's get back to 7:35 p.m. Notice is hereby given in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 48, Section 11 and 15, that a virtual remote public hearing will be held by the Rockland Zoning Board of Appeals on Tuesday, May 20th, 2025, at 10:35 p.m. on the petition submitted by South Coastal Animal Health LLC, 1389 Main Street, Weymouth, Mass, for a special permit pursuant to zoning bylaws 415-15C16 medical/dental clinics and 415-89 special permits to allow applicant to operate a satellite veterinary wellness medical clinic for small animals. There will be no boarding or kennel facilities. Proposed hours are Monday through Thursday, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., Friday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., and Saturdays in the future from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. The premise is known as 400 Hingham Street, Rockland, Mass, and is in the I-1 Limited Industrial Zoning District, 415-15 of the zoning bylaw. Assessors reference lot 42, map 25 on the Rockland Assessors maps. The owner is Jacques and Bill LLC, 96 Pond Street, Holbrook, Massachusetts. So I guess we're looking to talk to South Coastal Animal Health LLC, who is here from South Coast to talk to this board.
Rob, could I really quick, I'm so sorry. I want to inform you guys of something real quick on this. We had a hard time actually. We almost didn't even think they needed to come, only because it's animals, because
Yep.
they're having like a small satellite, like you would go for like a physical for a dog. And so we went back and forth with Bob Galvin, and we decided under an abundance of caution, because she's treating little animals and not humans, that's why she's here. But she meets all the other requirements. It's just because we don't have this defined in our zoning bylaw.
Gotcha.
Sorry, proceed.
No, that makes it no, that makes sense and probably answers a couple of questions that could have arisen anyway. So again, I'm going to representative from South Coastal Animal Health, who's here.
So I'm Grace Drake. I'm the majority owner of South Coastal Animal Health, and next to me is Sophie Johnstone. She's a also a co-owner or an LLC member, as is Liz Suplicki. She's on a different screen over there.
Liz, how you doing?
Also
I love little animals. I have several approved. Very simple.
Yeah.
No, please tell us what you'd like to do and we'll go from there.
Okay, so our clinic, some of you are probably clients of ours actually, but our clinic is a large independently owned small animal hospital. So we do wellness, but we also do a good amount of surgery, dental work, you know, all kinds of medicine. And this is going to remain our primary clinic. So this is where we have our larger surgical suite, our endoscopy, our laparoscopic surgery, all that stuff is not going to move to Rockland. We're just basically bursting at the seams here, and we need more exam rooms and just a way for us to split up some of our 67 employees so that they're not all trampling all over each other. So we've just been looking for a spot for a small satellite that's not too far away from here, and this opportunity seems like a really good fit for us, and also a really good location. Rockland, we do have a lot of clients from Rockland, but there's not actually a veterinary clinic in Rockland, which also appeals to us. I think we fill a void in that town, you know, that people will like. And yeah, I don't think we're never going to board. We're not going to keep any animals overnight. We never ever have any animals outside. We only take them out on a leash to pee and back in. So we don't expect there to be any issues noise wise or anything like that. So.
That was easy. Okay. Liz, did you want to say anything? Did anybody else want to?
No, I mean, are just, looking for more space for our small independent business, and, without a vet clinic in Rockland, and we have so many clients from Rockland as well, it seems like a great fit for us. And hopefully for the town.
No, more than understood. Absolutely, most understood. You guys, your current location is on Main Street. I'm looking here. It's down the street from the back entrance to Southfield, that Trotter Boulevard.
Exactly. It's on the other side of Union. Yep.
Across from the old Welcome Farm that used to be over there. So if anybody, old school people from South Shore, if you remember Welcome Farm.
What was the name of the place that used to be across the street?
Main Street Grill.
Oh, Main Street Grill. That's
Main Street Grill,
Yeah.
and Main Street Grill is was directly across.
Yes.
A little bit further up the road, the public storage place. That was Welcome
Yes.
Farm. The best ice cream that was around.
Oh, too bad.
Yeah, we could
Oh,
do-
yeah, very too bad. So having said that, I'm going to open this up to the board for comment. Mr. Baker Senior, you're the first one on my list. Talk to the applicant.
Basically, you're just gonna have a wellness clinic?
Yeah.
For the animals?
Yeah, I mean, I think we might do some surgical procedures there too, but we wouldn't be
Right.
utilizing or anything like that.
Physical therapy, wellness.
Well, we
Almost like a
love
re-
physical therapy, but we don't have the equipment for that yet, but we're talking about it. Yeah.
Okay, that's all I had.
Sounds good, Mr. Baker Jr.
No, actually, that pretty much answered my question. So thank you.
Perfect, Mr. Galley.
I think you've already explained it. I'm
Nope.
just going to be redundant. Thank you. No question.
Mr. Tanzi.
Are you going to utilize the entire building?
Oh, no, Saul Schroeder's on the call too. He is the VP of Acela Construction. It is their home office and they own the building. We're only going to be subletting a small portion of it, about a third of it from them.
Are you going to be located in the rear of the building?
In the front. We're in the front.
You're in the front.
Mhm.
Okay.
On the road. So like the windows that you see when you drive by would be
Yeah.
our part of the building.
Okay. No, I don't have any other questions.
Just trying to put this in perspective so I can figure out where this building is. This was it was
Right
a
next to
construction
Blue.
company in there, right?
Right next to Blue Tile. The building.
Okay.
Blue.
All right, Dry Ice Corp, Blue Tile, and
Yeah.
then there was a construction
Exactly.
company in the building. All right.
Mhm.
Does everybody know where this is?
Yeah.
All right, so everybody knows what this is. Everybody knows that it's off the main drag. There's no parking on Hingham Street.
No.
I can bring up if the board needs, I can bring up some Google Earth. There's significant parking.
Yes, Plenty.
That's one of the perks for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No
So
parking.
it's It's up to the board. Like I said, I can show it. I can show you Google Earth at this point, but I think everybody's pretty much okay with this, right?
I don't need
Yeah.
to see anything, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, all right. Well, hearing that, is there any other questions from the board?
No.
Is there any questions or comments from the general public? Would anybody like to speak in favor of this application?
Yes, I'm just here. I represent the building owner and the occupant, Acela Construction, and we're obviously in favor of this project. So, was just here to smooth over any concerns if anyone else in the area did have any.
No, it sounds like everybody's good at this point. So hearing that, I'll ask, is there anybody opposed to this application? 2, 3, hearing none, I go back to the board members. Do we have enough to make a determination tonight?
I believe so.
Everybody's good? I would entertain a motion to close the open portion of the public hearing.
So moved.
I got a second somewhere?
Second,
Second,
Oh, multiple seconds. I'm going Baker the opposite way this time. Roll call, Mr. Baker Senior.
yes.
Myself is a yes, Mr. Baker Junior.
Yes.
Mr. Galley,
Yes.
Mr. Tanzi.
yes.
Okay, and I don't have my cheat sheet up. Hold on for a second. Where's my zoning folder? There it is. We, unfortunately, we make so few decisions the night of. I haven't memorized this yet. So here we go. Let's see. I mean, hearing none, close the open portion of the hearing. Okay. Grace, the board will deliberate tonight and you're welcome to stay. You will receive a decision in the mail with a date stamp. 21 days from the date stamp on the decision, go to the town clerk's office, request a certificate of no appeal, and if no one is appealed, the town clerk will give you a certification and a copy of the original decision. You take those to the registry of deeds and have them recorded. One of the conditions is always to show the building department proof of recording. You know which registry we're talking about, Plymouth County?
I don't, so do you?
Well, put it this way, the Plymouth County Registry Satellite Office is just a little bit further up the street on Hingham Street.
Okay.
Directly across from, in the strip mall
AAA.
across from Dunkin' Donuts.
Oh, yeah. Mhm.
So there's the Plymouth County Registry, it's over in the corner. You're gonna end up just taking it over there and recording it, and once that's all said and done, assuming everything goes well, you take that, record it, and then bring a copy of the recording to the building department. And then there you go.
Okay.
And that's 20 days after we get your approval, if we do get your approval.
Exactly, 20 days after the
20
date stamp on it.
Okay.
So it really comes down to the date stamp, because in the grand scheme of things, the decision has to be, it has to be written, it has to be approved, it has to be signed. And I think the number is 14 days, it's 14 days after the close of the hearing. That it has to be published. So we got 14 days to deal with that, then it's 20 days after that. And once the 34 days have elapsed and there's no appeal, then you're good to go.
Okay.
All set?
Yep.
All right, board members, we're going on to the next one.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
luck.
Thanks.
Let's get back to, get rid of that, here, agenda, 7:45, okay. 7:40 PM, request for 2-year extension on the comprehensive permit issued pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 40B, which permitted the construction for 4 detached single-family homes at 320 Concord Street, the 40B permit, to June 7th, 2028. Let me read that one more time so I know I understand it. A request for a 2-year extension on the comprehensive permit issued by Mass General Law, Chapter 40B, which permitted the construction for 4 years, for 4 detached single-family homes at 320 Concord Street, a 40B permit to June 7, 2020. This extension is permitted under Chapter 238 of the Acts of 2024, Section 280. So So, section 280, the so-called third-party extension act by municipal entities, meaning and approval in effect of existence during the tolling period of January 1st, 2023 to January 1st, 2025 shall be extended for a period of 2 years from its expiration date. The date of the comprehensive permit for 320 Concord Street was June 7th, 2022, with an expiration date of June 7th, 2026. Okay. I could reread this about 12 times and I still wouldn't understand it. Allison, can you kind of?
I will. So I want to kind of help give a little bit more context. We got this letter a couple weeks ago, or at least I became aware of it a couple weeks ago. Yeah, it's dated May 5th. This was sent to us by, I believe, the applicant. There is a clause that allows for municipalities to like just by, by virtue of a vote, those projects within that time frame that's specifically laid out in the act to extend it 2 additional years. I want to point out that this particular applicant, I'm sorry, my dog is being bad. This particular applicant's comprehensive permit already had a 4-year permit. So it was decided June 7th, and he has it now until June 7th of 2026. He, in his letter, is indicating that he wants us to clean up some confusion and have it reestablished that it would expire on June 7th, 2028. But, given that comprehensive permits are usually a 2-year, they're valid for 2 years. He's already got a 4-year comprehensive permit. So it's really unclear to me as to why he feels now he needs us to write that he should have it extended until June 7th, 2028, when it doesn't even expire for another year. And so I did email him. I called him twice. I haven't gotten a response, but I did want to put this on the agenda so that you at least knew about it.
Allison, has Bob Galvin pitched in on this at all, or?
He has. I reached out to him. It's been a bit of a week, and so I wanted to flag this for you first to see where you are at, and then I'll regroup with him.
Oh, so you haven't heard back from him?
Not, he knows about it. I haven't heard
Okay.
back.
And the reason I ask, you said this permit was originally granted somewhere in 2022?
22, yeah.
Yeah, and the provision that the applicant is citing refers to permits granted from January 1st, 2023 to January 1st, 2025.
Correct. And
So
that was one of the reasons I was reaching out to him. I think Bob wanted me to call him, get some clarity, and flag it for you guys.
So at least on its face, he wouldn't be eligible for this 2-year extension. On the other hand, if it fell within that period, the provision is full of shalls with few exceptions, none of which apply to this. He probably would be entitled to it. But in the absence of anything from Attorney Galvin, my recommendation is that we continue the matter to a date certain.
Who's voting on this? I don't know
It's not necessarily for a vote. But I have to bring it to your attention because he sent us a letter to.
Is this
the
one of
zoning.
those?
So we're not vote. I mean, we wouldn't be voting, or we might not be voting.
I brought it to your attention, and I've reached out to this applicant and his attorney to get clarity. And I will keep you posted when I hear back from him and Bob Galvin. This is
All right,
just
well,
like
so-
an item that was raised so that you're
Okay.
aware.
All right,
of it.
I'm gonna make a comment because I don't know if I'm voting on it. I can't remember anymore. I was there observing when this was being discussed. I don't remember if I voted. I remember being there for Wall Street on Concord Street. I gotta say, 40Bs are such a touchy thing. I feel like there should almost be no discussion without Bob Galvin present, because people have people get very straightened up in their backs about 40Bs. I don't really feel like I feel like 40Bs need Bob Galvin present to be a guiding light on our questions and to make decisions. Just because 40Bs are just contentious.
Yeah, I understand your point, Steve. It's on the agenda, so it's certainly something we can talk about if we want to.
Oh, yeah.
Right, and I'm just saying, I'm only expressing the opinion that if a 40B is the topic, I believe Bob Galvin ought to be present, or the land use attorney in effect at the time. That's just all I'm saying. If he's not here and he's not going to be here, he's not here. I'm just expressing an opinion as a member of the board on 40B issues.
Yeah, and I agree with your position, Steve, which is why I suggested that it be continued to a date and time
Yeah.
certain.
Yeah,
Mr. Baker Jr., I'm gonna ask you a question. I heard everything that you said before. I'm gonna ask that you say it again. I think I know where you were going. I just want to make certain because please just say what you were talking about before.
Okay, about the substance of the law that he's trying to get approval
Yes.
under?
Yeah.
Okay. So, section 280, there's a section in 280 that refers to what's called the tolling period. And the tolling period runs from January 1st, 2023 to January 1st, 2025. And it essentially says that not essentially, it does say, notwithstanding any general or special law to the contrary, an approval in effect or in existence during the tolling period shall be extended for a period of 2 years in addition to the lawful term of approval. And then it goes on to give a bunch of exceptions to that. But keep in mind where it says shall be approved, that essentially means, unless one of those exceptions is met, that if something was approved by this board, a 40B project was approved by this board between January of 2023 and January of 2025, our granting of the 2-year extension is not discretionary. My concern in reading the provisions of that statute versus the date of the approval of the plan in question is what led me to suggest that we kick this over until, if not Mr. Galvin being present, at least being in a position to offer legal guidance on how we should approach this. Did that clarify anything, Rob?
A
or did-
little bit, because the first few lines that you stated, say it again. Is it anything that was granted during that, or anything that was granted or was technically in effect at the time of the tolling period?
Let's see.
Because it definitely wasn't granted during the tolling period.
no, it was in effect in existence. Because that
Sure.
2 years started on June of 2022.
Yeah, correct.
So that's where we're at. I think for me, what I'm trying to get back, and this is why we're not voting, but there's like requirements for me to inform you of applications and information in a timely manner.
Yep.
And so that is why I'm raising this evening, is because I got it on May 5th. I did reach out to the attorney. This does not technically expire until next year. And so I wanted to understand that the intent of why he's asking us to do this now. And I need to get that from him, then to get it to Bob Galvin so that you guys can make an informed vote. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, he wants to-
it appears he could have done it at any period of time once the statute went into effect.
Yeah.
So, and you're right, since it was in existence, even though it wasn't approved, it wasn't approved during that period of time, it was in existence. And that word shall is in there. I don't see any reason why it could be denied without him doing anything further than what he's done.
Okay.
But I think, given the cautionary contribution made by Mr. Galley, we should wait until we hear from Mr. Galvin one way or the other.
He's looking for a few extra years to sell the permit. That's all it
Yeah,
is.
I think Bob's going to say that this is like a very standard,
Yeah.
procedure that people have to do now
Yeah.
because of this tolling period. But I will get a communication from him to you.
Has anything
yeah.
happened down there, or?
No,
Well,
No.
Also, we got to remember, like you said, he's looking for an extension of his ability, a time frame to sell the permit. To sell the permit, people have to decide they're going to invest the money. And right now, the volatility in the market, they want to give some flexibility to wait 6 months or a year before they have to start obligating themselves to buying materials with all the tariffs fluctuating and everything. So that supports Rob's motion that statement that he probably wants to get a timeline extension to be able to sell the permit. The investors want a timeline extension to be able to make a decision. So, I mean,
Is this
that's
something
just
we
a
can,
thought.
is this a tablable, do we table this or do we just, this is just something that we talk about? Because it's technically, there's no decision that needs to be made at this point. This is not one of those situations where they're appealing it and we have 20 days to hear it and this, that, the other thing. All right, so,
He's made the request. I assume he's made the request in the proper form, although again, that would be something that should be discussed by Mr. Galvin. But if he has made the request in the proper form, I don't know that he needs to do anything else.
No,
do we
I
even
think
need-
you're probably
do we
right.
even need to make a decision on it?
We need to make a decision at some point because
Okay.
again, even though assuming the qualifiers are met and they appear to be.
Yep.
And then none of the exceptions come into play and they don't appear to be.
Yep.
then it's not discretionary. We have to take a vote to approve it,
Oh, okay.
but not necessarily tonight.
No. I've just again, the way you read it, it almost sounds like he needs to like alert us. It doesn't even sound like he has to make like any kind of application or request. It sounds like automatically.
It sounds like he wants us to acknowledge it, just so there's no conflict.
It says the approval shall be extended. That to me sounds like we have to do something. It may not be. It may be it's extended by operation of law. I don't know.
Without hearing it, I agree with everybody else. Without hearing anything from Galvin, I say we'll deal with this next time.
I agree.
Yep.
Okay, I'll put it on the next agenda
Yeah.
with a little bit more clarity from Galvin on. Ultimately, I think what it is he's asking us to put it on the permit itself that it's got an updated expiration date. And I'll talk to Galvin, see if we can draft that, and you can take a vote next meeting.
Or Allison, if you could clarify with Bob whether we need to do anything, in fact, or whether the enacting
just do it?
legislation just
administratively just change it. I got you.
provides the extension by operation of law. Yeah.
Okay.
In the end, this sounds like a modification to the special permit, to the comprehensive permit.
To the comprehensive permit.
Modification, any modification has to come through a hearing.
Right. That's why my initial inclination was to say we needed to do something rather than just say thank you and there's the 2-year extension.
Yeah, no, I agree. No, I agree with you. It's a modification. This sounds like we need to continue this. Do we need to continue this or does that sound right?
I didn't notice it publicly for this reason. I wasn't sure how you were going to feel about it, and I wanted to bake some extra time in. So let me connect with Galvin, and if it needs to be advertised, we'll do that, and we'll, take all the appropriate steps.
Perfect.
Sounds good.
Rob, he did send us a email to avoid
Bob Galvin?
No, Wall Street Development, asking to avoid any confusion going forward. It would be appreciated if the board would review this matter with town council to get an opinion regarding the expiration date of the 40B permit as previously outlined in condition 59 and under the Permit Extension Act. That was dated May 5th.
Dated May 5th. Do I have that?
I believe Allison sent this to us today.
Yep, that's what I was reading
Oh,
earlier.
yeah. Please, confirm receive this, Developer following paid to do in addition that they're avoiding confusion. Yeah, it's all part of the same thing. Yeah, okay. And I thought we were talking about an email. This is all part of it's all part of the same notification that he sent, or the memo that he sent. So yeah, let's talk to Galvin, hear what he says, and then go from there.
Perfect.
Everybody's in favor on that one. 7:40 PM request, we already done that. All right, so let's discuss. Yeah, it doesn't look like there's anything else that we have to talk about. So we've got one well, actually, no, there's two discussion topics. There's you guys with no, you continued it. So you
Yeah.
got, yeah,
Continue to June 17th.
all right, whatever. I'm still not gonna be there. So, all right, so that's a continuation. We don't need that. 7:35. There we go. Who wants to talk first? 400 Hingham Street. Little Animals.
I'll make a motion to approve South Coastal Animal LLC for a medical clinic for small animals with one condition that there is no overnight boarding.
Like that. No boarding chemical, and we just go by the special permits. We'll have to operate.
Yeah, and that they meet
So
all.
we got, is anybody else thinking of other conditions that have, and that's the only thing that I'm thinking is there any other conditions that would need to be on this?
Well, they talked about a private medical waste
Yeah.
entity taking the medical waste and even you know, pet waste. We don't want them throwing it out the you know, they have to manage that as well.
Did say,
Yep.
I saw it said something about they had a company that was going to be picking up the
Yeah.
Okay,
waste.
so there has to be something in place for biologic animal biological
Waste,
and waste and
medical waste.
medical waste. So anything has to be, there has to be a plan in place. It has to be approved by Ian. While he's the dog officer, he's animal control. So I think he needs to have something to do with it. So he should approve that. Along the lines of any of the kennels that we've had to deal with, he has to, he kind of has to approve this. They didn't talk about outdoor facilities. So there's really, because they're not going to be boarding anything. There's no doggy daycare or cat daycare or anything like that. So there's no places that they have to take animals out, but there's got to be some place where they're going to be taking animals out to use the facilities. I would think so. And that makes sense.
It sounded like it was going to be pet parents bringing their pets in for checkups and taking them out. Like you said, there's no boarding, there's no surgeries, so they really shouldn't be leaving them behind.
No, not necessarily.
No, I think it's entirely possible that the animals would be in the building without the owners, but
I'm just doing one thing. I want to see.
Can we put add a condition that there's no outside kennels?
Yeah, I mean, you could say that, but the kennels where they're actually like hanging out. That's where they'd be sleeping and stuff like that. What I'm doing right now is there we go. I'm just looking at like the South Shore VCA over in Braintree, the Braintree Hospital. They've got no outdoor facilities that I can see based on Google.
yeah, I've actually never seen a veterinary clinic or hospital that has like a fenced-in area for the.
Right.
They typically have like a grass strip with a post with poop bags on it, and that's what it is.
Yep. Well, I agree with you. And now I'm looking at their other, facility. I see some stuff out in the backyard. I see like a backyard. But I can't say that they're gonna be doing anything like that.
Yeah, because they have overnight stays of the pets in Weymouth and all, so.
Yeah. All right. So this is just this is like a quickie. This is a minute clinic, like a CVS minute
Yeah.
clinic for cats and dogs. Okay. All right. So
It's like a dentist office. We don't sleep over at the dentist, you know?
Very true. Very true. So
Gives you too much anesthesia, you're gonna be there.
That's why you get a ride.
so Mr. Baker, you made one condition. Does anybody else see any other conditions that need to be set on the property?
No, I mean, certainly parking isn't an issue, so.
No. 1 year review, because it is something different in a different in a location that traditionally it wasn't a medical office. 1 year review.
If they wanna change, increase their usage there, they would have to come back to the board for further review.
Yeah, on that issue, Mr. Chairman, they had indicated in their application Saturday hours in the future. I assume we're granting the Saturday hours as part of this approval now.
Yeah, I don't see that a problem. Just I would say give it to them. And if they don't use it, they don't use it. Who cares?
Right.
You know, it's up to them. That's a business thing. I would like to push for a year review, only because it's something different that we haven't had in that building before. It was always a construction office. It is slightly different. They never had a ton of traffic when it was the construction office. This proposes to possibly increase the traffic going in and out of that driveway. And with the tile place and the dry ice place right there, it's already a little congested. So if everybody's cool with it, I would like to say just like a 1 year review. From the date of, what is it, 20 days after the.
From the date of the filing with the registry of deeds.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's perfect. Is everybody okay with that, or?
And just only because it's been an issue in the past, who lets who know when the review is coming up?
We would end up doing that because we've been doing that more and more. We were doing that more and more. So, Allison, guess what? You got another job.
Okay. What is that?
Basically where it's on our radar to deal with these 1 year reviews.
After the date of the registry of deeds filing.
After the date of recording. So
Yeah, I've been putting that, I just took that note down. I already kind of drafted this decision and included that anyway. I'll just change the language to say the date of, after the date, recorded date.
okay. What else? Yeah, that's really about it. Just again, I would say just an approval from Ian. I would think that he needs to, because he's the animal control officer, he should at least have an idea of what's going on in there. So
He does. He's aware of it. He's in communication with these folks, and I don't have his email, but he had talked to Deb about it.
Okay. Is he going to give any idea if he's going to give some sort of like sign off or anything?
He doesn't have to, because they're not operating a kennel.
Right.
And so his interaction with them in the way that he would like license them or inspect them is limited in that way.
Okay.
Because there's no boarding or kenneling, and that's his authority.
Area.
Yeah.
Yep. Who else would have jurisdiction over this?
I mean, the building commissioner's got to sign off on the sign, that kind of stuff. The rest of
Board
it's
of
like
Health.
boilerplate, you guys reserve the right to revoke special permit, blah, 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 all that other kind of fun stuff.
Conditional
Board of
on,
Health wouldn't have anything to do with it.
this is where I was going. Mr. Baker always does this, conditional on approvals of
Well,
all.
all other
required
boards,
approvals.
yep, all of that is boilerplate in any decision that you guys do.
All right, so other than the boilerplate, there was the one condition. The second condition was the 1-year review.
Hours of
Baker?
operation.
Oh, the hours of operation, we're gonna give them all the hours of operation that they wanted.
Yep, and no business beyond what they've asked for relief, like what they've
Okay.
proposed before your board.
Yep.
Got it. I want to
Anybody
share,
else?
oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I do have a question. I don't know if it matters, but are they allowed to like have a retail operation of selling dog food and stuff like that, like
Ooh.
food and stuff and
Good
pet
point.
supplies? Is that an
Uh,
issue?
They
It's-
didn't
Or is
ask.
that,
I
they
don't
didn't
think,
ask for it? Yeah.
I think it's allowed in the I-1 food sales.
Yeah, it would be
Or
retail.
retail.
It's not food. It's
Retail.
it would be retail. I think the I-1 allows for retail under the special permit, but they didn't ask for it.
Right.
They didn't, and even if they did, I think it would be like an ancillary use to the main use.
Mm.
Like if they had to sell like, I don't know, special like flea shampoo or something. I'm just making that up, but
It's hard to find a veterinary clinic now that doesn't sell high-end dog food.
Yep.
Really?
Forgot to ask if they'd be dispensing pharmacy. Do they do the pharmacies at the animal hospital? Or they just give prescriptions and you go get them. Sometimes you go get them from some other places.
It depends on the VCAs. That's an actual hospital, and they typically have a pharmacist in there.
Yeah.
This being a satellite office, again, this is gonna be one of those. Again, I know the Minute Clinic with CVS already has it in there, but what are these? The emergency care, like these emergency care centers. They don't have any they can prescribe, but they don't have a pharmacy built
Yeah.
into it. There's a couple of, there's the one on 18 in Abington. There's the one across the street from Marshall's in Weymouth. The urgent cares or whatever it was. They don't have the ability to fill prescriptions.
Okay.
I know Walgreens does animal prescriptions.
Why did they screw up and give you flea shampoo for your dandruff? No.
Yeah.
No, there's a sign there that they fill animal prescriptions.
Really?
Yep.
I'll look into that. All right, we're going too far. What else do we need to talk about?
I think that's it.
Mr. Baker Senior, you want to modify your motion?
The 3 conditions?
Yeah, approval with the 3 conditions.
With the 3 conditions, yes.
I got a motion.
Second,
I got a second. Baker sandwich. Here we go. Mr. Baker Senior.
Yes.
Myself is yes. Mr. Baker Junior.
yes.
Mr. Galley.
Yes.
We're gonna close this out with Mr. Tanzi.
Yes.
Done. What else? You got anything else to talk about?
I'd like to real quick, I was able to look through my emails real quick. Bob Galvin did say that this should be a minor for the extension. It's a minor modification. So we'll hear it at the next hearing. I'll get it.
And it's gonna have to be a hearing. It's gonna have to be advertised. It's gonna have to. Who's paying for all this?
He's gonna have to pay for it because he's requesting it,
Right.
right? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't have any money in the budget for stamps. I'm like losing my mind.
That's a question for tomorrow morning.
Yeah, I'll get it sorted, but I'll get this advertised for next week and the
Okay.
following week, so we'll have it on the first meeting in June.
Sounds good.
Very good. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Anything else?
Motion adjourned.
I got that. Do I have a second?
Second,
No. This is a Baker sandwich. Mr. Baker Senior.
Yes.
Myself is a yes. Mr. Baker Junior.
yes.
Mr. Galley.
Yes.
Mr. Tanzi.
Yes.
Smoke them if you got them. Later.
Thanks, everyone.
Right. Good night.
Good night,
Bye.
Bob.